Hi, I would like to welcome you today to our webinar focusing on First Nation and how cloud computing can certainly help your organizations. First Nations are becoming more than just the administration functions and all of the various departments that are underneath there. They're also having lots of related businesses. And what we're going to be showing today is how cloud computing can help you with coordinating all of that stuff, not only the First Nation, not only the nonprofit side of it, but business entities as well. It's going to be just a brief review of what cloud computing is all about, and we can do much more in-depth analysis and take you through a demo later on if you would like. Really what it'll show is that this thing is more than what the current existing accounting systems are doing. Some of the existing ones are aging. They're certainly starting to get into the category of legacy systems. And really what we're going to show today is hopefully showing you the future of accounting. Okay, so let's just talk about the agenda. So for the agenda, we just want to point out 5 reasons why cloud computing we think is right for First Nation management and see if you agree. We also want to show you why we think Sage Intacct is one of the better solutions for the First Nations. And then we're going to be talking about the complete solution, because as I was saying, it's more than just the administration. It's more than just your nonprofit entities. It also deals with the companies as well, and how do we coordinate the overall solution so that you have all of the information required by chief and council. What is dimensional accounting? And so we're going to be discussing that and just showing you how it makes things much more easy to be able to do the reporting out of your systems. We're going to be talking about specific First Nation reporting. We're going to be talking about integrated budgeting, which is a key component of lots of nonprofits and First Nations. And then we're going to be talking about integrated purchasing control, because it's one of the chief areas, again, where there tends to be lots of problems inside. And then we're going to be going through a brief demo of what Intacct is about, discussing briefly whether it's right for you, and then finishing up with questions. Okay. So 5 reasons why. Why do you want to go to cloud computing? You're probably using an on-premise system right now. And so you're saying, well, listen, it seems to be working fine. But really what happens with this is that with the cloud computing, you only have to pay for what you use. And what that means is this, is that if you bought on a system that originally had a 10-user system and really only you got 3 people or 7 people that are using it, you cannot go down. You've already paid for the software. With cloud computing, you pay as you use it. You get to vote every month whether that system is working effectively for you or not. And so instead of having all of these complex IT problems where you're having to do your own backups, you're having to keep track of your own servers, you no longer have to do that. You pay as you use it. That can be a significant savings because lots of the First Nations are in remote or local, are not in areas where there is a lot of IT support. And so this can help you. Also, your data is safe. Because of all of the hacking of systems now and all of the fun stuff that's going on with servers, I mean, in the cloud, you actually have far stronger security than you actually have in your own servers in-house. And so this can also be something that can be a big benefit, because if somebody's been hacked or they've got these ransomwares that everybody's been getting lately, I mean, it can certainly cause a huge disruption. Okay. And then supporting a mobile workforce. So most of the organizations that we're coming across now have got multiple locations where they're having to have staff come in from one of the remote sites, or they're having businesses that are in different places. And so how do you access all of that information so that everyone can get their information anytime and anywhere? And cloud computing can certainly do that, because you do not have to do a full install of a workstation on these systems. All you have to have is a web browser, and you can go straight in. So that can be a significant savings as well. The next one is that we had one of our First Nations that were just doing an upgrade, and it was working with another business partner. But the upgrade for that particular organization, because it was large, they had, I think, 5 or 6 different business entities, plus all of the internal departments. And the cost update was over $10,000. And understanding is that in the cloud computing world, your versions are always up to date, because the systems and the actual cloud accounting system itself just updates itself. And so that can be a significant savings to your organization. And then the last one is that there's integrated solutions. And so this is kind of one of the reasons for why Sage Intacct is also one of the preferred things. But it can add on and it can tie into any of these other systems that you need. If you need donor management for one of your nonprofit agencies, or if there's fundraising, or you have grants that are coming from the government, you can coordinate and bring all of that stuff in-house as well with these systems. So those are the 5 main reasons that we're talking about. So let's just take a look and say, okay, where does this all fit in, right? And so this is in a graph, which is just kind of showing the various modules that are out there. I mean, certainly you've got your QuickBooks, you've got your other Sages, and these are on premise, which means they're actually installed locally on your servers. And so, yeah, we can certainly have this stuff. You can see that it ranges up and down between small and large, right? And they work very, very well. But what happens is, what we're going to be talking about today is over on this side of the world, which is really this cloud world. And so in here, yeah, you've got some of these small business ones as well, right? But what we're going to be dealing with is the Intacct, which actually can grow very, very large and scalable, and it can handle multiple organizations, okay? So let's just go into the training and why Sage Intacct again. And so understand, if you're looking at it, Sage Intacct, you'll see, is one of the leaders. And we're talking about customer satisfaction down on the bottom, and momentum score is just how fast is it actually growing in the actual market. Yeah, the QuickBooks is certainly out here as well, but this has got limited functionality. It is really a small business accounting system, as you saw in that previous graph that we were talking about. It's down in this small stuff here. Yes, it can ramp up a little bit, but it starts to cause you problems with you have to do a number of workarounds. The Sage Intacct, as we're going to show, can deal with lots of that stuff out in here, and it is leading the market. Okay? All right. So let's just talk about the complete picture, the complete solution, because as I was saying before, the First Nation organizations are no longer just this small administration. They're growing and they're getting more complex. And so how do we deal with the complexity? Or whether you're in a fundraising organization for a nonprofit, right? These systems can handle all of that stuff. So what we're talking about in here is oops, excuse me, I didn't want to go forward, but is all of this. So whether we've got the business organizations, whether we're talking about the education department, or you're talking about your individual program departments, you know, the child services, all of this stuff can come underneath one roof with all of the scheduling. Then it will flow down into an actual costing for administration, for education, for healthcare, and or business organizations. So really what it becomes is a complete picture for your organization to solve all of the various processing requirements that you've got. And this is why we think that this is a very, very good solution for the First Nation organizations over the long haul. Okay? All right. So let's just talk about then the next step. So let's talk about this dimensional accounting. I mean, you saw a little bit on this particular flap, and I just went down in here. And so inside of the general ledger is dimensional accounting. And what the heck does that mean? Well, currently inside of your organizations, you've got a whole bunch of chart of accounts that are dividing up all of your programs, all of your stuff into the various component parts. Inside of dimensional accounting, what can happen is that you can have a very, very small chart of accounts down in here. And what can happen is we can associate transactions to employees or vendors. We can attach it to services. We can have restricted funds. We can have, you know, funds that where you receive grants from a government and they're saying, listen, you can only spend it on certain areas. We can control that. Underneath it, we also can have, you know, these programs, or you can have projects, or you can have grant tracking, these department tracking. All of this stuff can be built into these systems very, very simply. Because right now, if you think about it, when you go to add a new program to your organization, whether you're in a nonprofit fundraising type entity, you have to go in and you have to add every one of the chart of accounts for the expenses you want to track. Inside of this world, all I have to do is type that new program in or new department in, and it shows up and it's available to every every part of this reporting system. And it goes further than that, because really what we're talking about is also these business operational pieces that you can have hung off. So we've got one of the organizations that we work with that's actually, I think, got 37 different business operations that are running. And so what you would do is you can create the same things hanging off these systems with the same kind of reporting so that you can handle the business operation plus the First Nation administration and other components as well. Okay? All right, so let's just take a brief look at what kind of some of the reporting is available on these cloud-based systems. And so again, it needs to be specific. It needs to be in a format that you can use. And I know this is a little bit small to read, but if you look at it, this is just a report that we did up for Chief and Counsel dashboard. It's a dashboard that you can give your Chief and Counsel. And so they can come in here and take a look at the individual stuff. And you see that this has got reporting basically from 2014, 15, 16, going up to 19. So they can see exactly what's going on. And in these systems, and I'll show you a little bit about it in this demo, I can click on any of these items and it will drill right down into the detail. So they have access to all of the information that they need when they need it. So then we go into, let's just take another look at this stuff. So it also can be, and we can have these multiple dashboards set into these systems for every individual. And so we can have it from a roles-based type reporting. And what I mean by roles-based is we're basically sitting back saying, listen, if I'm the controller, I want to look at certain information. If I'm the CFO, I need to look at certain information. If I am the admin executive, I need to look at certain information. And so what I can do is I can configure this, and I will show you that in part of the demo very, very easily to be able to give you an exact focus on all of the information, which is critical. You know, lots of First Nations, they need to track their cash. It's critical on the systems. They also need to go on what's going on with the expenses. They may have approvals, and we'll talk about that a little bit later with the accounts payable approval processes. But we can put that right in here where I can click on it from a controller and it sees all of the information which is going on. And then, of course, the income and expenses and drilling down into the detail. So we will show you that in part of the demo. But you can see that I got on these particular dashboards all of the information which I think is required for a controller. Okay? So let's go a little bit more. So let's talk about programs. And so again, so this is if you've got your various programs. So whether it's Upstart, whether it's any of these programs in the nonprofits or in the First Nation administration, this is just dealing with education. And so if we're looking at it, what do we want to track in here? And so no matter whether it's in the financial system or outside of the financial system, I can bring that data in. So here what it's tracking is actually student enrollment, right? And so that's got nothing to do with the accounting system, but understand because of that, I can come in here and I can bring this information into these systems now, these cloud systems, and I can track, see what's going on with the staff count, what's going on with the enrollments on my students. Is it going up or down? Well, it's up by 43 is what it's showing you right here. And I also can do it in graphing as far as what's going on because everybody is different on how they want to look at the data. And what I'm telling you is that we can configure this very, very easily to give it to you in any format that you want. Okay. All right, so let's just go into another one because we will be dealing with a little bit more on this stuff later. And this is, again, one of the important stuff that we can do with these same systems. And so understanding is I can give you the full reporting inside of exactly the same functional system for doing your business operations for your First Nations as well. And so inside of here, I can even go further because I can have it, you know, whether you're, I mean, this may not happen with regards to US or Canada, but understand I can deal with multi-currencies. I can deal with multiple business operations, and each one of them are at my fingertips. So I can drill down to any one of them and see exactly what's going on with each one of the organizations. Okay. So we're not just talking the basic simple systems. These ones can go much more complex if you need them to. And so let's just take a look at another view on it. Again, so this is coming from a business operation, but we're talking about projects now. So let's say you're doing oil and gas servicing with one of your operations inside of your First Nation. You can actually keep track of all of the information, all of the stuff which is going on for that particular organization as well. And so you would give your project managers this kind of a dashboard where they would log in. They would only see what they can get access into, but you see now all of a sudden, if I'm a project manager, I want to approve timesheets, I want to approve expense, I want to approve purchases. So again, when we're talking about all of this stuff and what's going on, you're going to see that this is what we're talking about as far as the purchasing controls. But you see, on top of that, I may want to be tracking my utilization of my staff that are working in that particular business organization, and this software can handle that as well. All right. Okay, so let's just move on from there and let's talk. So what are the other pieces that we were going to try to go through on this particular demo? And so our webinar, and it's talking budgeting. And so understanding is that right now, most of you are probably using Excel as your main piece for doing your budgeting. And it takes a long time because you got to go in, you got to set up your budget in Excel, you got to do a bunch of stuff, you got to move data backwards and forwards into it. Then you've got to take all of the data, you've got to key it into your accounting system just so you can get reports out of it that are actually giving you the information that you want. So you've got your chief and counsel or whoever's in your business organization can compare actuals to the budget. And what we're talking about is this, is that with an automated system, and I'll show you that on the next slides here, but we can actually do this where it might take weeks right now to be able to build a budget because you're sending down individual spreadsheets to your various departments, right? We can actually generate all of this stuff in days because what happens is you set up a standard template in the budget and then you actually send not the template off, but you actually send off just the detail for the individual business operation or to the individual departments or to the individual programs, okay? That program manager will then fill it up, right? And as soon as it fills up, it actually rolls right up into your other budgets where all of that information rolls together. So you do not have to do anything else with it, but you would review it. Once you're happy with it, you would just send it off and put it into your accounting system. Okay, so let's just talk about, a little bit more on this budgeting stuff. So let's talk about the pain points. See, copying the budgets from from your actuals from your current existing accounting system down into a spreadsheet. Also, what are the benefits? Well, I don't have to do that. All I have to do is click on it and it will happen automatically for me. I do not have to worry about what if scenarios. If I'm trying to do that in a spreadsheet, I have to do lots of setups. But in these automated systems, you can just say, hey, listen, if I hired 10 more staff, what is the effect going to be on my overall program? You can do that very quickly. And so you can go right down into these budgets where you're actually budgeting by hours or by numbers of staff inside of the budgets, but that'll roll right back up into your actual wages and expenses in your system. And then unable to make, timely budget versus actual comparisons on the spreadsheet. Well, because you have to rekey it all back in. In this world, you just upload it in, and so it happens very, very quickly. So lots of stuff going on with budgeting, but really what it does is it gives you the availability to be able to collaborate with all of your various departments very, very easily on what's going on. So you can analyze, plan, report, forecast, and it's kind of a continuous circle as this stuff moves around. But really what happens is that this budgeting thing can certainly reduce down that budgeting stress, which happens in all First Nation organizations over and over again quickly. Okay, easy to maintain. All right, so we'll go into more detail. We don't have a lot of it right now with regards to the budgeting side of it, but just to kind of give you an idea on what happens with the budgeting. And I know, again, this is a little bit tough to see, but you can see this dimensional accounting can all be built into here. But all I have to do is in my accounting system, and I'll show you that when we're in the demo, you can click on the budget and it drills right down into the detail that you've got in here with all of your notes with regards to the budget. So all it is that it's all integrated, easy to use, and you can get it all in one spot. All right, let's talk about the purchasing control, which is kind of the last big piece that we wanted to talk about today. And so inside of here, what we're talking about is you can set up these purchasing workflows very, very easily. And I'll show you that when we're in the demo. But I can come in here, I can have multiple approvals from a purchase requisition over to a purchase order. I can have multiple approvals as it gets received into a shipment. I can have multiple approvals as it goes over to the invoicing. I can have multiple approvals as I approve it for payment. And so that's part of those dashboards that I was showing you a little bit more. But I just want to make sure that we're clear on this. The other side of it is this, is that it also links to that budgeting that we were just talking about. If you've got budget information and you've got a department manager that tries to actually put a purchase requisition through and they're posting it to an account which is actually over budget, or this purchase requisition will go over budget, it will stop them and notify them that, hang on, you've got a problem in here. You're going to have to choose a different department. And so budgets control from the purchasing as well. So they link the two. All right, so let's just go in, and what we want to deal with now is just, how can we do? So we can do dashboards for this reporting as well. So we can have purchasing reports built right into the system. So if you are the purchasing manager, again, you would have, a dashboard which has got purchasing transactions and who's the requester and stuff. We're going to show you a little bit more on this and the analysis of just purchasing and what you're doing. But overall, we can also put on what they call performance cards on here, where you're tracking the cash flow, because that would be critical if you're in purchasing. Plus, what's going on with inventory and payables. Okay. So again, multiple dashboards, multiple places that we can go through. All right. So let's just deal with, this demo, because really what I want to show you is just how the software kind of works. All right. So today it's going to be very, very brief. I apologize, but we're really trying to give you an overview on just what kind of functions are available right now. And if you want, as I said, we can get certainly more details and specifics as you're interested. We can arrange that on a one-on-one basis. So let's just talk about the Sage Intacct. So what I've done is I've just moved over now. I've already logged into a First Nations sample company that we've actually built. And so what is in this dashboard? Again, what we're talking about is that I can configure this very, very easy. I can move stuff around. I can say, listen, I want to have more information about approvals, or I want to have new stuff in here. I can come in and I can make changes to it at any time. What it's done is it's loaded the report writer back into the system. And I go, hey, I don't need the report writer. But you see, I can make modifications to this stuff at any time. I can come in and I can make changes to what kind of a report is in here. And so it's at your fingertips, and it makes it fairly easy to break down. So here's your dashboards, but let's just talk navigation first. And so inside of the system, you see, so I can navigate from this dashboard, or I can come over and I can navigate from it's kind of like your menus, which is on your existing, legacy systems right now. And so if I wanted to go into the general ledger, yes, I can drill down and I can go into various pieces from here as well. Okay. Also, I can do it from what they call the bookmarks. And so if I wanted to go into a purchase order, see, I can just click on purchase order. What it's done is it actually changed me over to a different piece of the software. So lots of ways to navigate around in these systems. Very, very easy, very, very intuitive. And so what we're trying to do is set it up so that it's easy to use from everybody's perspective. Okay. The other thing is understand everywhere in these systems. So if I'm on a dashboard and I say, hey, listen, I want some help on this particular page, any place in here, you see what it's talking about is it's got videos, it's got all of the help available at your fingertips so that you guys can get help. If it's after hours and somebody's there and you're trying to work on something or a report, you have all of the information available here so that you've got it at your fingertips to be able to help you with it. So help is always available. Okay, so let's just talk about some of the other stuff that we wanted to get into. And let's just go into a little bit of stuff on these dimensions. And so let's just go into some data. So remember I said we could drill down all of the time. So let's just look at the general administration and expenses. And let's go in here and say, listen, here's the report. You'll see I've got some budget information. Remember that budgeting I can drill down into as well. But right now I just want to talk about this licensing fee. So $103,000, you're going, what's going on with that? So you see what it's done is it's drilled me right down into the transactions, and I say, okay, what's going on with this one? And so I apologize, double clicked on that, and you can't do that in this particular system. It's all single click, but nothing broke. All it's saying is that, hey, we just don't know what you're doing with that. So single click into the system, I come up and so you say, here's all of the information about it. So you're saying this was coming in from a journal entry, and you'll see the history is here. So let's just take a look and just see briefly what's going on. So you see this was created on October the 7th of 2014. It was created, it was posted right after that. Here's the person that did it. So every entry in these systems, you can track exactly who's doing what. Okay? So that is something that can be of a big benefit to your organization. So I just clicked on the edit because here's what I want to show you about these transactions. You just see, I can go down and I can look now at all of the stuff which is going on. You can see I can also make attachments in here. So if you had an invoice that you scanned in, or you had an email that you're making this entry from, you can attach it right in the systems so that it's available at any time. Okay? And if I click on this, you see it's coming up saying, by the way, here's the attachment, and I can click on this and it's going to open up that particular invoice as well. But what I want to really focus on right now is let's just deal with these dimensions that we're talking about. And so part of these dimensions is I am posting an individual GL account, which is fairly simple, to a department, to a fund, but I can go further than that. And so if I click on that, give me the more information, you see I can allocate it down to a particular program. I can allocate it down to a particular site. I can allocate it down to a particular employee that's doing it. So when I'm doing this stuff, you can set the systems up so that you can break down the information so that it does more finite and detailed reporting by just clicking on these dimensions. And so what it does is it attaches to this transactions so that it is embedded in here. We can also do auto allocations if you want to, but right now it's a little bit more detailed than we need to get into right now. But understand, from a dimension point of view, what I can do is on each line item, I can take all of this detail, so this 3,002 cents or $2.74, and take it down, and I'm allocating it down for the reporting down into here. And you see how easy it is to add this particular report to the dashboard. It's always available in here. Now I don't want to do that, but let's just stop it right there, and we'll just back it back up. But so you can see what I can do very, very easily is drill right down into this system without a whole lot of problems, and I really don't need a ton of detail to be able to do that. So easy to use. So let's just take a look at it from a different view now, because we were looking at it from the controller, right? And now let's just change a little bit. Let's talk about outcomes. And so lots of nonprofits that are out there. So if you're in the nonprofit world, and you certainly are in the administration side as well, right? Let's talk about administration and what you want to track for the administration metrics. So again, this might be a total tribe member count. It might be the annual revenue per member. We're talking members and tracking. We might be tracking volunteer hours. We might be tracking the various programs inside there. We might be tracking the locations and cash balances at each one of them. But what we can do from a metrics point of view is be able to slice and dice this stuff so that your administration staff would have this dashboard, but your education staff might have this dashboard. Where now what we're talking about is student enrollment, student count that we'd looked at when we were in the actual PowerPoint presentation. Or if we're in here and we're saying, now let's go even further. See, I'm chief and counsel, so what do I want to track from a chief and counsel point of view? So again, what I can do is very, very easily make a modification to this stuff. See, now they're saying, all right, at their fingertips, they can see what their cash balances are. They can see what kind of grant revenues coming in. They can see all of that stuff, okay? And it goes further than that. Because if we want to, you see, we can go in here at this top level. We might have all of your business organizations underneath here for different entities. So if I wanted to go to Eastlake, you see, I can come in and I can just go over to Eastlake. And what it's done is it's actually taken the same graphing information. Now, there might not be a whole lot of information available for Eastlake, but understand, even though I'm in the same chief and counsel, I haven't had to build another dashboard. I've only built one, and it allows me to break this down if I have access to that data. Okay, so let's just go back and take a look. All right, and every one of these things, again, as I can drill right down into the detail anytime I want, okay? So if I'm a chief and counsel, again, I'm drilling right down. I can give you the exact information on what's going on with the system. Again, I double clicked on that, and you only need the single click, but you see I'm going right down, and I just keep drilling right down until I get right down to the detailed transaction. So everyone has access to whatever they need whenever they need it, no matter who you are. As long as you've been given the authority to go down and look at that information, you can get in. So one last thing that we just wanted to talk about now, and that is the functionality in drill down, whether we're talking about roles or education. You see, because even if I'm up in here and I want to take a look and say, hey, what's going on with my tuition? See, I can click on that and it'll take me and drill me right down into detail on what's going on with the tuition transactions that are happening real time. Okay. All right. So let's just go back, because now what we're talking about is the budgeting. And I just wanted to kind of give you a brief show on what's going on with budgeting in these systems as well. So let's go back to the dashboard for the roles for the controller. Again, I'm navigating around using the menus that particular time. But in here, you see, if I'm looking at this stuff and I say, okay, listen, I want to take a look at this financial accounting, you see it's got budget information on here. So let's just drill down into service fees. Okay, in service fees now, you see that I've got the stuff, but over here is the budget. Remember, I'm saying I can give you that information. So let's click on the budget and take you. Now, this is a basic budget, but you see service fees is now broke down into a number of different areas in here. The youth center, the outreach, the food services. This could be housing, or this might be your children's services, or it could be anything else. But all of these departments would then come up and you're taking a look. So you're seeing it's all done by month as it goes across the system. I want to take a look at, say, the January month. And so inside of here, you see that it brings up all of the information. What periods do I want to show? I can take a look at all of these different periods and take a look at what's going on. I could prepare a budget based on the budget, or I can prepare one based on employee counts. Anything I want or I can think of, I can build my budget on. And the automated systems even go further than this. But at my fingertips, anytime I can prepare my budget and bring it in to a program. You see that the program is attached, right? The departments, your funds, if it's got restricted or non-restricted funds, all of that stuff can be in here, very, very easy, accessible from a click into the budgeting information, if you have the authority to get in there again, okay? All right, so then the last thing we wanted to show just briefly is this purchasing. And so understand, inside of these dashboards that we're looking at, you see, I actually can attach and I can have some of that information available anytime. And so inside of the project manager, right? Because if you're a project manager, you see I've got approvals that I need to be doing inside of that system. Or if I'm the controller, I might be doing purchasing controls. But really where that is coming from, and again, I'm using the menus to move over and just do the navigation down in. And here's this workflow that I was pointing out before when in the PowerPoint. And so what is it really showing you? Is again, I can have multiple approvals, but see if I'm in here and I've been given the authority to do this, then I can go in and I can say, okay, I want to generate a purchasing requisition. So you are now, an employee, or you are particularly one of the department heads that's saying, hey, I want to be able to do this. So you're saying, this is the person, right? So you're saying, see, it brought that information up. It knows it's net 30 because that's what's in the system. I can attach some information with regards to the purchase order here, if I need to. So either scanning it in, taking a picture, however I want. But if I want to do a posting of this transaction, you see, I can do all of that stuff from right in here. I want to go a little bit more detailed. And again, here's the information that it wants to track based on the dimensions, based on what I selected as far as the item. Now, what happens is this. So I can do this item, I can change the quantities, do whatever, because I am generating the requisition asking for me to purchase something. And then I can either submit it or leave it as a draft. But when I submit it, what is going to happen is this transaction is now going to flow down to the next person in the chain with all of the attachments, with all of the notes that I put in here to ask for this particular amount of purchasing to be done. Now, understand that if I've got budgeting controls in this system, the system will also go back and look at my budgeting to make sure that I'm not over. So lots of integration in these systems to control. So think about it in your organizations from the program, where the program managers always tend to be overspending. You've got a budget, you need to live inside that budget. this thing can certainly help you without you having to go and look it up yourself to see whether you need to approve it or not. So the budgeting certainly comes under control. If you're the supervisor for this particular employee that's requesting this, this submission is going to go straight down to you. And then it's going to show up on those dashboards that I was showing you, or in the purchasing side itself. So inside of the dashboards, if I go in and I'm looking at I think it's in administration, I've got one. So I want to leave this particular transaction. I'm going back in here, and nope, I apologize. This one did not have it. It's actually in a project manager. I know that there is one. So in the roles in project manager. And so now this thing will come up as that purchase transaction is just going to show up in here for me to be able to do it with the request status, who's the requester, who's the type, what's the date that they need it by. Okay. So lots of stuff that's in here. In the CFO dashboard, it certainly does have some of that stuff in the system as you go down in the bottom, but you see this approval status is right in here. So I can approve purchases as well as the expenses for the particular organization. And these systems can go further, because really what happens in that expense tracking, you see I can actually have expense tracking for staff as well. So timesheets plus expense tracking built into these systems with all of the approval processes built in here for you guys to be able to handle that. And once you've approved the expense for an employee, it will move it straight down in, so it goes into a payment, so you can actually pay out that person as well. So lots of stuff. Now, I know we've gone through this stuff fairly quickly, and I want to try to keep this short, but I just want you to understand that from a First Nation point of view, these systems, I do believe, are what the future is, because you see, if I'm a CFO, if I'm a controller, if I'm a department head, I can have this set up so that I have all of the information at my fingertips all of the time, so that all of this information is controlled, right? Grant managers, anything that you can think of as far as your organization's HR managers. You know, now you're going to be talking about, I want to have information coming from payroll, whether that's an outside ADP payroll or one of the Sage HRMS payrolls. We can have all of that functionality attached into your systems for you. Okay, good. All right, so let's just go back and finish off the PowerPoint, so just understanding. So what we've tried to show you is just basically a brief overview on what's available with these cloud-based systems that can certainly improve your processing inside of your organization and solve lots of your issues. So let's just go a little bit further, because really what happens is we have to take a look at, you know, is there a benefit to this? And so this is the Hopi tribe. This is the quote that was from their controller, I believe. And so this particular person, you know, I mean, the savings, 20% cash flow increase, you know, $500,000 in value grew out of the system. And so this is where you really need to take a look at your own individual organizations and say, hey, listen, if I had purchasing controls, what am I going to gain? If I had budgeting controls, what am I going to gain? If I can give my chief and counsel reporting at their fingertips when they need it, instead of me having to do that all manually all the time because I'm using Sage 50 or QuickBooks to do my information, or I have an older legacy system that really just cannot handle the business entities very well. You know, what kind of savings am I going to get? Which brings us to our last stuff. Is it right for you, right? And so you need to quantify those costs. How much time is it taking you now to do manual reports? You saw that I had different reporting up there for, you know, the project managers, for the department heads. How much time is it taking everyone to do those reports so that I can generate information, which is giving me information to do decisions? And so if I'm, you know, costing because I'm making poor decisions because I have lack of information, I want to give you more information when you need it. Also, what are the cost implications of not having purchasing process controls in place? I mean, obviously it's going to be overspending, it's going to be people over budget. Therefore, you're probably going to run out of cash at some point because you've only got so much cash, and then everybody's having to pull back in. And then what are the benefits of having advanced and enhanced budgeting processes in place? So you need to kind of take a look at all of this stuff and say, listen, If I've got these kind of systems in place, if I can go through there and look at a graph, look at a financial report, and be able to drill down into detail when I need it, do I have a sufficient, value? Is it going to improve my organization enough to make it make sense? Okay, and from there, really what we're going to do is just leave it with the questions. So I'd like to thank everybody for your time. If you do have any questions, please, contact our office. As you'll see on this final slide, there is the phone numbers and where we are located. It's in the Alberta mainly, but we do have subcontractors working out of BC as well. So thank you very much.